I'm not coming back to Michigan. I'm leaving forever.
Oh, what was the joke about that? What was
There,
the whole thing?
there's no joke about that. I left.
Oh, oh. I thought there was because we made a joke on something, one of these videos where I said it was something when you were up in the air and you had to turn around, you can't come back to Michigan. I thought that's what you were
That,
alluding to.
no, well, I mean, yeah, I can't do that because of, fucking crossing straight lines. But you
See,
know,
when you don't shoot the game of the year cast back to back, you don't know what's going on, aka me. So I'm over here just like, what the hell's happening? Yeah, 2015. It was a dark year for many reasons. This year is weird because it's better and still the same. If you catch my drift, like it seems like there's a lot that's like, for example, we talked about this in 2013. This year was a pillar year. So like you either loved Bloodborne, you either love Metal Gear Solid 5, or you either love Witcher 3. Neither of our game of the years are any of those. and I'm annoyed because I was gonna try with our whole thing that we're doing this year with backlogs. I was gonna try and get to them at some point, and I never did because I'm a loser.
you're still going through all the other Metal Gear games.
As Squint said from Sandlot, I'm an L7 weenie. Erik may be a little more like, yeah, this is easily like one of the years where I look at what my game of the year is. I don't hate it. I do think it's a great game. It's not one of those like, oh, but it's kind of rough. So my runner up is a video game that every YouTube streamer loved, Until Dawn. Until Dawn, everyone's favorite movie video game that took the internet by storm. Low key, when I finally played it, aside from the, because it kind of has that kind of Quantic Dream feel where it's that line of, is it a video game, is it just kind of like a movie-ish experience? That's what those games are like. Heavy Rain,
Your choice matter. When your character dies, they're gone forever.
exactly, the choices you make, but it has a lot of the kind of the staples and the tropes of stories like this. But I actually thought where it goes is very interesting. I think some of the twists and turns are stuff I wasn't expecting. And again, just as an experience, it's fun.
It's silly.
Listen, because this year's rough. So now, obviously, Until Dawn being my runner-up, we you know what upsets me? This should have been a thing we started a long time ago, where it's like a thing pops up and it's like, Brian lists all the games that came out this year. So I had to cut this from last year's video because I learned it's not me saying this as a bad thing. You were wrong about something, but I co-signed it. Evolve did not come out last year. It came out this year. I had to cut it out of the video right before it uploaded. So there's that.
What a shame. Oh no, Evolve.
Rainbow Six Siege came out this year, which was a game that, they restructured it because we sadly never got Rainbow Six Patriots, which would have been awesome. It was like a super single player game. And then they shifted to this kind of 5-player squad thing. Again, it's still big and people still play it.
And it's so toxic.
Pretty much. Do you remember a game called Hatred, where it basically was you played a guy?
The game? Yeah, that was the game where you just murdered everyone for no good reason.
And it was just a hot really topic. The Order 1886. Remember that IP for the PS4?
The hype.
Blops 3, as I love to call it. The intro to Dying Light. Just Cause 3, finally. We were waiting for it, and it ended up being a little underwhelming, sadly. I still like the Just Cause games, but, it was what it was, which was buggy and stuff.
Never get them. Could not get into them.
Battlefield Hardline, which basically killed that studio. They were doing the Dead Space games. Rise of Tomb Raider, which I think those games are honestly very underrated. I know those are games that kind of got swept under the rug with everything else, but I thought they were solid. Obviously Bloodborne, Metal Gear Solid 5, a game that came out the same day as Metal Gear Solid 5 and got outshined, Mad Max, from Avalanche Studios as well. Life is Strange, Rocket League came out in 2015. Batman Arkham Knight, Undertale, the best Halo game, Halo 5, Guardians.
Woo! Yeah, baby.
Witcher 3, obviously. I just move on. A game that unironically kind of brought the Assassin's Creed games a little bit back because Unity was so bad, and Syndicate, which I never played. Obviously, Unity was my last Assassin's Creed, but I heard Syndicate was like a good, solid Assassin's Creed game. Mortal Kombat 10. Again, this year, like I'm looking at it and I'm reading through it, and it's not like a terrible year or anything. Like it's a solid.
It's just that like it's just you don't talk about a lot of these games. Like,
no,
really, nothing that stands out.
No, and I was gonna say Fallout 4, which was the first video game to be like almost Beyonce, like Shadow Drop. Like, because everyone was talking about, like, are they just going to show it off at E3 and then just put it out this year? And they did. My game of the year is obviously not, I haven't said it. I didn't do that intentionally either. But my game of the year is a game. I caught up on this game very late. It was one. So this was at a time.
Lily, it's so big.
What a jerk. This was at a time, get your tail out of the way. This was at a time where Microsoft lost the console war very early. It was like within 2 years, they were already trying to fight. And there was one IP, which isn't exclusive to them anymore, but there was one specific IP that people talked about. And it was an IP because this was definitely in an era, which we're still kind of getting a little bit, where Xbox will come out with these games where people don't put them in the status of the greatest game of the year, but they're really great and they're kind of underrated. We saw that with Pentiment recently, which is a game that, you know, has gotten rave reviews, but nobody really talks about it. Hi-Fi Rush is a game that is great, but it came out literally in like one of the first weeks of the year, and this year has just been bananas. So that game's kind of been overlooked. But this is a series that I think over time has gotten its due. It's gotten a sequel. It's on the Switch now.
Hey, yeah, it's gotten enough notoriety to make a big deal when it came to the Switch.
Yeah, and it's a style of game that I've actually gotten into recently over the past couple years, and it's probably something that I think Erik was more into than me. It's Metroidvania games. That game is Ori and the Blind Forest.
The forest you can't see. Oh no! Open like your eyes.
Ori is a Metroidvania that in the spirit of what a Metroidvania is, which is it's not super strict on story. It's a lot of world building, and you kind of just learn from the environment and the lore and the backstory. It's not like the story of it is not super complicated and over the top. And it's also just has a great art style. And I do think gameplay wise, it is inventive with what it's doing. It's a lot more vertical. You know, when you get Metroidvanias,
jump up.
When you get like Metroidvanias and all these kind of games, you don't think of a game. To me, playing this, it never came across to me like those other ones because of all the skills you have, the layout and the design of the map. You guys will find out all of you will find out what just happened at the end of the video. But the way that it's set up gives you a lot of space to do really creative and inventive stuff, especially with the enemy design too. Enemies floating above you. There's these creepy crawlies that are like going on top of the map below you. The puzzle design is really great. I do think the combat is one of the more kind of laid back aspects of it. It definitely feels a lot more like this game. And again, there's other Metroidvanias that remind me of this too. Something like a Hollow Knight, for example, which is more recent, where it really isn't even about the combat. It's more about you having to do certain tricks in order to avoid getting killed. Like, it's less about the damage you take. Yeah. It's like, it's less of the damage you're taking to them and more of how do I avoid them, put in a couple hits, but then do it in a way where I can get around them good. And then obviously, if you're watching the footage right now, I've already beaten the game, so I'm just running and spamming buttons. So it's not, it becomes a lot less creative once you like max out everything. But I mean, it's one of those things where I don't know if I would have loved this game if it wasn't for like the opening. The opening was sort of huge on the internet, like, wow, that's sad. Like, holy shit.
Woo! Yeah, really gonna cry.
Depressing games time. And again, it's one of those things where that's really the most you get from it, because then everything is kind of about rebuilding and, you know, finding a new group of people to be around. And it takes you to different parts of the map. You go to the woodland area, you go to like a more water area. There's some areas. The final bosses are very interesting too, because a lot of them don't even rely on, well, I shouldn't say bosses, but the moments when you're reclaiming a certain area, they're more about like these escape challenges where it's you need to use your moves very quickly and very precisely to get out. Like the one I'm thinking is when the whole level's flooding and you have to use the ability where you like light spring from a thing and it slows down and you push your arrow. And if you're not on top of it, you're fucked. And you have to keep doing.
Well, maybe you're on top. You are the one getting fucked.
Why are you making this Ori such a like? Come on, Ori's a game for the children, and I don't know what child would be able to play this game. But no, like, it's weird because again, going through all my games this year, I was just so upset because I'm looking and I'm like, I didn't play any of the big ones. And when I just sat down and I thought about this one, I will say I enjoyed this more than the sequel. So spoiler for 2020, that probably won't be a runner-up.
Oh no.
I felt like this game, the second game, and we'll talk about that too, because there are some sequels that you make the first one and it feels like that's a game. It's complete. Everything about it. What do you do for the sequel? You kind of just add on that. And I didn't like how the Will of the Wisps added on it. And it just, there is a lot more complexity to it, but it felt like just as a full-on experience, this was one that was a lot more gratifying to me. And I don't know, like, it's a great game. And I definitely think in the modern realm of Metroidvanias, this is one of the top ones. And again, art style is great. I think the world building is very unique. The music is beautiful. I love the music. Again, you need good art styles and good music, because if you're not doing a story, you need those two things to hook you in, and then the lore and the world building kind of adds on top of it. And yeah, it's very satisfying. And I don't know, it's just, again, I feel like I'm selling this game so short. Just go play it. It's a great game.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Well, congrats, Ori. I never played you, but I'm glad that Brian got to talk about you for a hot minute. My runner-up is a game that Brian mentioned, and it's a game that I genuinely think gets a lot of bad raps for, you know, it's not a small section of the game, but you play it a little bit, and a lot of people don't like it, and that's why they deter it down. I'll give it the runner-up to Arkham Knight. I just think the combat is probably the best in the entire series. I think it's a strong finishing arc. I get it. The Batmobile is kind of whack. I get it, but whatever.
Let's talk about how the game looks too.
Oh,
like, it's gorgeous.
It looks better than Gotham Knights.
I know, that was like the big thing that came out.
My game of the year is something that I don't really have for any other year. Um, oh, it's May.
May
Yeah,
wants
it's
to
my
come see.
year.
Okay.
It's
May,
the
you want to
carrot.
think what his game of the year is for 2015?
May, do you know what it feels like to be human?
I don't think she does. No. I mean, in the movie that she's named after, technically, yes, but
Fair enough. Um, what's in a soul? What is the reason to be human and things like that? She's very invested now.
yes.
And what makes a person a person? These are some questions you might think of and talk about while you're playing the complexity of the game, Soma. Oh,
Oh,
goodbye,
so
May.
now you don't give a shit? Okay.
Here she said I'm out. Soma, developed by the people who made the Amnesia games. I've never played Amnesia whatsoever.
You just get it every
And
day.
I I wish I would, because to forget about yesterday, hell yeah. Forget about the day before, hell yeah. Forget about fucking every day up until now, hell yeah. Um, but I knew how the game played. I've seen plenty of YouTubers play it. I've seen my cousins play it before. It's very interesting. It's just a horror game where you go through and you have a little lamp and you're like, ooh, and you can't fight back. You just got to run. And of course, that spun off to having the Outlast series, which Outlast, I hear that their game that came out this year was really good, and the two before it are really good. And just this genre of let's have horror and not being able to fight back, because we've had plenty of horror games where you have limited like ammo and things like that, or oh, you have like a melee weapon to fight or whatever. No options. It's run and hide and fucking try not to shit your pants. Alien Isolation is a good example where part of that game is mainly hiding and figuring out your way around. Um, with Soma, though, they said, why don't we do this, but actually kind of tell a story? Because let's be real, Amnesia games don't really have a plot to them. It's like you go into a spooky castle and then try to get out or whatever the fuck. Um, don't get me wrong, Amnesia fans. If there's a plot, there's a plot. Hey, I won't stop you. But Soma's where it really developed into plot. So he plays this dude. He has cancer. That's how you start a game off. You're immediately fucking dying. Actually, it's not cancer. You got hit in a car accident, and you have like brain damage.
Yeah.
And so you go, and you're getting checked doctor. All of a sudden, you're not in the doctor's office anymore. You are suddenly in this underground complex, and underground, underwater, yeah, same thing. But you just wake up there and you have no idea what the fuck is going on. So you have to go around and try to figure out, pick up lore logs, and slowly but surely you're seeing all these robots that are just like acting like people, you know, when you find them, the ones that are somewhat capable. There are others that are just lying on the ground and cut in half, but they don't feel any pain. They don't realize they feel any pain because they don't realize they're robots. Nobody realizes that they're a robot until they look into the mirror, which, come early on in the game. Slight spoiler alert, but this game is almost 10 years old and not really talked about as much. You find out that you're a robot. You're like questioning your whole existence because you literally just had this life like a day ago. You were literally that person. You had this consciousness. So what really goes on with having a consciousness? Was it like are you your own person? Um, how does your feelings affect others? You know, what is the way of what is a way of living if it's not truly being a human? Is that even possible? Things like that. Not like being like AI and things like that. That wasn't really a concept. It was more like what can you do as a person, to show your humanity and things like that. Gameplay, not much. Again, like I said, it's the Amnesia style of you're hiding and sneaking around because there are some bad robots that if you come into contact with them, they will attack you and hunt you down, and you have to hide. Or if you're playing on the easy difficulty, they don't attack you. You can just walk through and have not a problem. But they're fucking terrifying though, still, because you just hear the ringing and the blue light, you see it, and they can walk towards you all creepily and get you. I mean, you also have to make these conscious efforts about when you run into certain characters in the game. You know, how do you react with them? You know, of course, the gameplay is all steadily one pace, but you know, you're curious to see how your character decides to, you know, do I end this robot's life, even though they think they're a human and think they're fully functional and things like that? Do I let them just sit there and just suffer and live out their eternity just on the ground, you know, not being able to move? But, you know, they believe they have a soul. So, you know, what do I do with that? You get to explore the underwater complex. You get to walk underwater and solve little puzzles and things like that. The puzzles aren't super difficult in this game, I'll be honest, which I do appreciate because, you know, this is real a game. The game is more about the plot and trying to invigorate yourself and trying to understand the world and complexities. How did humanity fall apart? Why was your consciousness selected to be reborn however many years into the future? I can't remember exactly, but you know, enough that humanity is completely extinct and went underwater and then went to space. The little bit that was left that went to space. And your whole goal throughout this game is there is a satellite in space that you want to send your consciousness to. You and your partner that you come up with. She's a fun little combative person you have with you because, of course, she knows she's a robot and is a voiceless consciousness, but you know she still has these open feelings and emotions, even though she is literally just on a chip card. That's it. She's just a little chip card that you carry around with you. Um, but you know that's your whole goal. You're trying to get the satellite all hooked up and things like that, and you know you're going through and you come across your decisions and of course all this thinking about it, and of course you get these deep dive dumps into, oh hey, this is, you know, why you were chosen or why the database has your selection here. You know, was it a mistake, was it on purpose? You find out, and I'll be honest, the answer is like, oh, that's just freaking how things roll, I guess, just like life. um it's a nice, easy, short game. It takes about 5-6 hours. That's not saying like the praise of it. It's just that it stays with you for however long you need it to. You just get to embellish into this world and with these characters, you know, look thinking about their decisions and things like that. Again, I just really don't have much to say because I'm just like, hey, I recommend playing it. I think it's a great game. There's just not much to it other than what I'm telling you. Is just, hey, you play as a robot with a human consciousness, and you know, what does it mean to be human at the end of the day? That's really all it's all about.
I was gonna say last year was, you know, without spoiling it, last year was a very dense single player game. And then another game which was a big revolutionary game for multiplayer, right? But the year was still kind of not, it was whatever. This year, it's like, it's not a bad year. There's a lot going on, but it's like the two games we took, it's like, I mean, there's stuff to it, but what does it mean to be human? And what if you watch your adoptive mother or father figure die of starvation in front of you? More about deepness and darkness.
Yeah, because 2014, without spoiling it, I do think was a better year. But at the same time, like, you know, we picked our games. We picked our games because it was just, it is what it is. Whereas this year, I felt it was harder to pick it I mean, I knew what it was, but like before, because I recently had played Soma,
Yes.
a lot like this year, because it dropped on Game Pass, and I would always was interested in it. And I realized it was the game of the year, but before that, I was like, "Is it gonna be Arkham Knight?" Because it's like I enjoy Arkham Knight, but like, do I put it up there as a game of the year?
We start to see the shift here. We're starting to see really great AAA, like big games, but then we have the really good indie games that aren't just like, like these $3 little games. They're like hefty indie games with all this production and budget behind it and stuff.
Right. Yeah, like money is thrown at these projects because whether it is with Moon being like, we have ambition, and Microsoft said, here, we believe in your project, or with Soma being, hey, we've made games that are successful beforehand. Why don't we try to go forward and push this? Now, was Soma a success or not? That's a different story to say. Of course, I don't believe there should ever be a sequel because, like, the game ends and it ends. I'll say this: it ends so perfectly.
If you made it this far, and this is not funny, Brian, if you made it this far, I don't want it to sound like I was being such an asshole about Ori. I really love Ori. It's just weird because when you get into a year where it's like, I really connected with Ori, but it was just a great game. Like, it was just really great and really fun, and the world building and the design was great. But like, I think every year when we have a game of the year, I can sit and go, okay, even last year, I said, this is my game of the year because I definitely had an attachment to it. This game was just like, yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, like I've been bringing this idea up, and let me know, folks, if you'd like to see it. I was thinking we tier list our
Yes.
game of the year, and I'll say this:
From
this one,
2000 to 2023, we're gonna go through every year we discuss. That would be fun.
yeah,
What are your favorite games of the year? Is it Metal Gear 5 and Witcher 3? Tell us that we have to play them.
knowing how The Witcher 3 is on everything now, it's probably The Witcher 3 for a lot of people, which is fine. We'll get to it one day.
That is true. It
Um,
is on my backlog, so definitely I'll get to it at some point.
let us, please go ahead, like, comment, subscribe. We
And
would appreciate it.
And next year, I think I agree with Erik, where next year I think is even more desolate, but I think the games we're going to talk about are at least going to be like, yes, yes.
Yes, it's the yes dance.
Should we end with a little fork in the garbage disposal?
Toodaloo.
And again, the way that the map is designed to where Jesus Christ, I'm like, I'm gonna die.
Damn, Brian. Metroidvanias are killing you.
I was gonna say no. Well, the second one was one of the rare times I've ever thrown a controller as an adult. The ending
As
to
an
the
adult.
yes. Well, it's been a long time. So, anyways,
What the fuck?
I don't know. The way that the map is designed, where it felt a lot more vertical, and Jesus Christ. No, I
Guys,
can't even say that part anymore.
there's gonna be a weird edit. This is gonna happen later on, like at the end of the video, where he's just Brian. How many times is Brian dying? Here's a little
How
counter.
can I even get through my conversation? That will have to be a blooper.
It's one sentence, actually. It's the one
That's
sentence you
right.
can't
I
get.
need to figure out what's a new way to word it so my body doesn't get triggered.
Don't say the fucking word vertical.